We live in a world where comparison is not an occasional thought. It's the default state of mind. From the moment we wake up, we scroll through images, achievements, and lives that are not our own. Each post, each story, each headline whispers the same message: you are not enough. Arthur Schopenhauer saw this centuries before the age of social media. He warned that comparison is not just a distraction. It is a form of self-imprisonment. The moment you measure your worth against another person, you surrender your freedom. Comparison is seductive because it feels like a form of truth. You think you're simply evaluating your progress. You tell yourself you're being realistic. But in reality, you're replacing self-awareness with self-judgment. Schopenhauer argued that human happiness depends not on what we have, but on the gap between what we have and what we think we should have. And comparison widens that gap endlessly. It creates a moving target. No matter how far you go, it will always move just out of reach. The poison of comparison is subtle. You don't notice it at first. It hides in small thoughts. Someone else's success becomes proof of your failure. Someone's beauty becomes proof of your inadequacy. Someone's happiness becomes proof that you're doing life wrong. You begin to resent others, and worse, you begin to resent yourself. This is the root of envy. Not simply wanting what others have, but feeling that their having it means you cannot. And yet, we cling to comparison because it gives us direction. Without it, we're forced to define success for ourselves. And that's terrifying. Because if you can no longer use someone else's life as a yardstick, you must finally face your own. You must decide what matters to you, not to your peers, your parents, or your culture. That's the first step toward freedom, and the very step most people will never take. Schopenhauer understood that comparison is a trap precisely because it feels productive. It gives you a sense of direction, a way to measure yourself against the world. But he saw this as a false compass. When you orient your life around the successes or failures of others, you give away control of your own path. You stop asking, "What do I truly want?" and start asking, "How do I match them?" And in doing so, you begin to live a life designed for someone else. Comparison also distorts reality. We rarely compare ourselves to the whole of another person's life. We compare ourselves to the version they present. In Schopenhauer's time, this meant social posturing, reputation, and appearances. Today, it's an endless stream of curated images, edited moments, and carefully chosen words. You are not measuring yourself against their truth. You are measuring yourself against their performance. And no one can win against a performance. But the most dangerous part of comparison is how it shifts your sense of self-worth. It conditions you to believe that your value is relative, that you can only be good if you are better than someone else. This is a fragile kind of worth, because it can be destroyed in an instant by a younger rival, a more successful colleague, or even a stranger you've never met. Schopenhauer believed that this fragility is what keeps most people in a constant state of agitation. They can't rest because they can never stop measuring. If you want freedom, you must step out of the game entirely. You must recognize that your worth is not a ranking, but an inherent fact. That your life's meaning cannot be decided by the scoreboard of another person's existence. This is not easy, because it means giving up the comfort of external validation. But as long as you remain dependent on comparison, your happiness will never belong to you. It will belong to the people you measure yourself against. When you stop comparing, something strange happens. The noise dies down. At first, it feels unsettling, like you've lost your compass. You no longer have the constant push of competition, the endless pressure to prove yourself. And without that pressure, you're left with a question most people spend their lives avoiding. Who am I when I'm not competing? This is the void comparison hides from us. It's the silence where our real identity waits. Schopenhauer believed that to escape comparison, we must anchor ourselves in intrinsic values, qualities that don't rely on anyone else's position. Wisdom, integrity, depth of thought, creative expression. These can't be taken from you when someone else does better. They are yours, no matter what. But modern life makes this difficult. Social media, advertising, and even casual conversation constantly push us back into the race. You may take a step out, only to be pulled back in by one glance at your phone. This is why breaking the comparison habit requires awareness. You must be able to catch yourself in the act, to notice when you're mentally stacking your life against someone else's. And in that moment, you have a choice. You can continue down the familiar road of envy and self-doubt, or you can redirect your focus inward. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me grow, or is it keeping me trapped? If this journey into the mind is speaking to something deep inside you, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell, because we're only just getting started. The truth you're hearing now is just the surface of Schopenhauer's warning, and there's much deeper to go. Because once you learn to stop comparing yourself, you don't just gain freedom from others, you gain the ability to define your own life. And that is where real independence begins. If these ideas are breaking something open inside you, subscribe now and turn on the bell, so you never miss the truths that could set your mind free. The irony of comparison is that it doesn't just hurt your happiness, it steals your uniqueness. When you measure your worth against others, you unconsciously begin to imitate them. You adopt their habits, chase their goals, and even mirror their struggles. Your life becomes a distorted reflection of someone else's path. Schopenhauer believed that this is the greatest tragedy, not just to suffer because of comparison, but to lose yourself entirely in the process. True freedom requires that you stop living reactively. Instead of moving toward your own vision, you start reacting to the achievements of others, constantly adjusting, competing, and compensating. You may think you're progressing, but in reality, you're just circling the track they've set for you. And no matter how fast you run, you're still running in someone else's race. When you remove comparison, you face a blank canvas. That canvas can be terrifying, because now the direction must come from you. There's no leaderboard to climb, no rival to beat, no applause to chase. But this is where the work begins. This is where you discover what actually matters to you. Not what looks impressive from the outside, but what feels right from the inside. Schopenhauer insisted that inner freedom is impossible without self-definition. Until you decide for yourself what counts as a good life, you will always be living by someone else's definition. And as long as you do that, you'll never be free, because your worth will rise and fall with the shifting fortunes of other people. Freedom, in the end, is not about outrunning others. It's about stepping off the track entirely. It's the courage to be invisible to the scoreboard, but deeply visible to yourself. The moment you stop comparing, you reclaim something priceless, the right to live on your own terms. No more chasing a moving target. No more feeling like someone else's success is your loss. No more measuring your worth with someone else's ruler. This is the freedom Schopenhauer spoke of, the kind that can't be given or taken, only realized. But freedom has a cost. When you step outside the game of comparison, you lose the comfort of external validation. You won't get the constant little hits of approval that come from trying to keep up. You'll stand alone, without the safety net of fitting in. And yet, in that solitude, you find something far greater than validation. Peace. The deep, grounded peace of knowing that your life is truly your own. Schopenhauer warned that envy and comparison are prisons of our own making. The walls are built from illusions, and the door has always been unlocked. But walking out requires the courage to face the unknown. Because once you step through, you can never go back to measuring yourself the old way. You'll see the trap for what it is, and it will never hold you again. So I'll leave you with this. If no one else could see your life, no audience, no competitors, no approval, how would you live it? What would you keep? What would you let go? Tell me in the comments, because your answer might reveal the chains you didn't know you were wearing. And in the next video, we'll explore an even deeper form of freedom, not just escaping the trap of comparison, but escaping the trap of desire itself. We'll uncover Lacan's warning about how the very things you crave might be the forces that control you. If you think you've freed your mind from comparison, wait until you see what desire has been doing in the background.